Well, if anyone thought they were missing out on seeing Wolverine truly go berserk in the previous X-Men films, Prisoners makes up for that entirely. Prisoners stars Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Viola Davis, Terrance Howard, and Melissa Leo. Two families are coming together for Thanksgiving dinner. That's Hugh Jackman and Maria Bello, and Viola Davis and Terrance Howard. And suddenly after dinner they're looking around and they can't find their daughters anywhere. It turns out that they're both missing. And these two families, along with Jake Gyllenhaal, who plays a detective in this movie, spend the rest of the film trying to figure out what's going on, where they are, who did it, who's to blame, and what can they do about it. Prisoners is a very deep and dark film that is filled with lush cinematography, immaculate editing, top-notch performances, incredible dialogue, and pretty much is one of the best films I have seen all year. Right from the beginning of this movie, I noticed that the editing was so tense. It's a film that takes its time with its shots. The cuts in the film are not frequent, which is a beautiful thing to see. The cinematography by Roger Deakins, who is my favorite cinematographer, is beautiful to behold. It's the kind of movie that opens very quietly and you're like, I really hope the sound is working. The sound is working? Okay, the sound is working. So many movies nowadays are like, we gotta open with this big music and big opening credit sequences and blow everyone away and keep everyone all attentive and everything to our film. No. The best way to keep an audience's attention is subtlety. This is the kind of movie where you lean forward in your seat and you watch the screen and you're thinking, oh my god, I can't wait to hear every word that's coming out of these characters' mouths, because you're so riveted by the screenplay and you really truly feel as if you're watching real people in the middle of a real situation. Because there were times in this movie where I noticed that I was actually gripping my fists and I had to loosen up because this is such a tense, taut film that just kept me on the edge of my seat throughout the entire movie. It's a film that from shot to shot to shot is consistently riveting, and not just because it looks incredible. The performances in this movie are absolutely terrific. This is probably the best performance I've ever seen from Mr. Hugh Jackman. He is absolutely magnificent in this movie. He's very stern, he's very protective of his family, but he's not like Mr. Nice Guy, I'm going to go out and find the guy who did this and blah, blah, blah. No, he is a messed up individual himself. And that's one of the great themes about this movie, is the villains and the good guys are kind of blurry. Everyone in the movie has stuff that's wrong with them that they're trying to work through. Things that make them feel pained about their past, things they're worried about in the future. And that's one of the things I loved about this film, were the various themes that were weaved throughout the movie about what the title Prisoners really means and about what all these characters are dealing with currently. And the fact that even though the central story of two abducted little girls isn't terribly original, it's the way the story is told, acted, filmed, written, that is so different and original. And that's one of the things I truly loved about this movie, were the themes behind it, the things you could take from it. And like I said, Hugh Jackman is really good in the movie, as is Terrance Howard as the other father. It's the best I've seen him in years. He was so vulnerable. You really felt that through him, this vulnerability that was being portrayed through his character that came out in the best way in certain scenes, and I absolutely adored his performance. Viola Davis, Maria Bello, and Melissa Leo were all very good in the movie, as was Paul Dano as this very troubled young man that I thought he just did terrific. I'm not always a huge fan of his. I think sometimes he overacts a little bit too much, but here he was just right. My favorite performance in this movie, though, is actually Jake Gyllenhaal as the police officer who's investigating all of this. It really helps that he was in End of Watch last year and he went through all that police training, because he plays such a convincing police officer. But it's not just the fact that he seemed real and convincing in this movie. I thought that as a character, he was so interesting. You really felt through him the turmoil that he was dealing with as he tries to solve this case and tries to figure out where these girls are. And he did such an excellent job of portraying that I just thought he was amazing in this movie. I mean, I really do think he's worth an Oscar nomination, as is Hugh Jackman. Everyone in this film gave such a heightened level of drama to their performances that continuously, from scene to scene, I wasn't bored despite the 2.5-hour runtime. It's the kind of movie where I actually get excited when I notice that two characters are about to start talking, because I'm so interested in these characters and what they're going to say that I actually found myself like, yes, what are the next words out of your mouths? Please, I want to see this scene. I want to see these characters. It was like in Dark Knight when you got that scene where the Joker and Batman were in the interrogation room. They're just sitting there talking, it's not some big science fiction explosion extravaganza. They're just these two characters sitting there talking and you're so riveted by it. There are so many scenes in this movie like that where you just want to hear what the next words out of these characters' mouths are going to be. The director of this movie, Denis Villeneuve, I apologize if I said that incorrectly, but he absolutely knows when to go for a wide shot and when to pull in. The shots are lovely. They're composed so well. They're cut to perfection. I mean, this movie is edited so well. There's so many times in the film where I kept thinking, oh, they're going to do some stupid thing with the editing here. And by probably like 10 minutes in, I just realized this film is going to look, sound, and feel incredible for the rest of the runtime, and it did. Roger Deakins, man, you are the best cinematographer working today. Another great thing about this movie is from the first act to the second act to the third act, the movie flows and builds perfectly. You just feel as if the drama is continuously building. In some films, you can identify like one scene as that was the best scene in the movie. That scene was better than all the rest. This movie has a consistent building tension where everything continues to improve upon the last scene, and it just keeps getting better and better, and I could not take my eyes off of these characters. I adored Prisoners. It has what I think is a perfect conclusion. It's one of the best dramas I've seen in years. This film absolutely deserves an A+. Guys, listen to me. I order you to go see Prisoners when it comes out. I mean it. Go to the theater and see this film. I have not been this serious about you guys having to see a movie since Place Beyond the Pines. I mean it. Go see this movie. It is incredible. Just go see it. It's really good. So guys, when you see the film, let me know what you thought of it. I'm very interested in knowing, and as always, thanks very much for watching. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.